Jason, we're ready to go.
All right. I hear that everyone is on. We are just about at 7 o'clock, so we can get rolling. And we are going to start by calling the meeting to order. First order of business is to recite the Pledge of Allegiance. So we'll take a second, stand up. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, with the pledge done, we'll do a quick roll call of the commission members. We'll start with District 1, Jason Wienerman.
Jason Wienerman here.
All right, good evening, Jason. District 2, Sean Blackburn. All right, Sean might be joining us late. Staff, do we know, does he plan on joining? Or was he going to be absent tonight? We'll wait and see. Hopefully Sean will join us shortly. District 3, Jason Crone, that's myself. I am going to be the assistant chair and running the meeting tonight, so bear with me if we bounce around a little bit. I'm not an expert on this matter, so keep me on track, everyone. District 4, Ken Mossman.
Here.
All right, thanks, Ken. District 5, Mike Pearl.
Here.
Thanks, Mike. At-large member Rich Blankish.
Here.
All right, and at-large member Jeff Bertram is going to be absent tonight. Official from our county commissioners, Joe Persky, are you with us?
Here.
All right, Joe, good evening. All right, so with that, Jen, can you take us through why we're meeting this way?
Yes, Mr. Chair. We are meeting this way in response to the COVID-19 pandemic pursuant to Minnesota Statute Chapter 12 relating to emergency management. So that authorizes us to meet in this virtual manner as we are meeting tonight.
All right, thanks, Jan. With that, we will get into agenda item number 1, which is to consider a conditional use permit for a major shoreland alteration permit submitted by Zach Studansky of Lake Friendly Lawn Care and Landscaping on behalf of John and Corrine Wieland, Apple Valley, Minnesota. According to Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to construct a replacement retaining walls greater than 25% of lot width and more than 4 feet in cumulative height, not pursuant to section 5.1.2C of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439. Property under review or under consideration is Lot 5, Block 1 of Maryland Beach First Edition, lying east of Elkview Circle in section 26, Munson Township. Property address is 21031 Elkview Circle in Richmond, Minnesota. Do we have the applicants with us?
Yes, we are here.
All right. Very good. And then if you can, just for the record, I think we need a name and address, correct? So if you can just name your address, that would be appreciated.
For our actual home, our residence?
Yes, yep.
So 13937 Fallbrook Way, Apple Valley, Minnesota, 55124.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
And with that, staff, will you take us through, Nick?
Sure thing. Good evening, Mr. Chair and Planning Commission members. The site is about 1/4 of an acre in size. Pervious lot coverage is less than 10%. A lot of the lot has a bluff and steep slope on it, especially in the project area where a lot of the retaining walls are located to be worked on. The soils in the area are potentially highly erodible due to the slope. The vegetation that exists on the property does meet the minimum vegetation standards that we have that we would require for any kinds of alterations to be permitted, and what's proposed would be above the thresholds as well, and the work would be completed. Recent septic system compliance inspection was completed, and it is considered compliant. I did meet with the property owners and Zach Studansky, the contractor, in April of this year to review site conditions, discussed the permit requirements, and provided the application materials. For the application, the retaining walls that exist out there currently, there are 7 of them, with all of the lengths and heights are listed in the staff report there. What is proposed is 5 retaining walls with a cumulative height of about 16 feet. So walls 1 through 7 there listed in order from the ordinary high water level landward would be a wall at 3.5 feet high, 2 feet high, 4 feet high, 2.5 feet high, and 4 feet high, all 50 feet in length. Walls 5 and 7 are located downslope of the existing drain field, which is located closer to the road, and the existing walls extend to the south property line, and then the walls actually extend across as well. This proposal would shorten the walls to end about 15 feet from the south property line, and then just kind of blend in from where the existing walls are in the neighboring lot. Be blended, and those walls would be shortened away from the property line. There are some seed mixes proposed, a pollinator mix and a woodland mix, as well as a lakeshore seed mix as vegetation proposed after the project, or as part of the project. There would be about 177 yards, it was calculated, of excavation and fill material for the wall removal and replacement. In addition to those seed mixes, there were dogwood plants and pussy willow plants proposed as well. In the findings, as we move farther here, I just wanted to mention that there was, the Sauk River Watershed District did reach out and just submitted a comment stating that there would be a erosion control permit required from them if this project were approved. And then there are 3 conditions in addition to the standard conditions that are for every shoreland permit that would be proposed here. So that would be maintaining 3 rows of silt fence until the site is stabilized. Additional silt fence was included as part of the proposal by the applicants. The project would need to be completed in sections as stated in the proposal to maintain manageable work areas, and then the planting of the proposed plants would need to occur by October 1st of this year. With that, we did not receive any written testimony on this one. I did want to ask if any members visited the site.
All right, we can run through that real quick from a roll call perspective. Jason?
Yes.
All right, Sean, are you with us yet? Okay, we'll drive on. District 3, Jason, I was able to visit the site. How about you, Ken?
Yes, I was there.
Okay. Mike?
Yes, I was.
All right, Rich?
Yes, I was there.
Very good. And Joe?
Yes, I was there.
All right, thank you.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Angie Berg. So Sean Blackburn is with us, but he's having microphone problems.
Oh, okay.
So he's present. We're working on it.
Thank you, Angie. We'll follow up with him later and find out if he was able to make it. So, all right, Nick, anything else?
No, with that, that's about all I have for the staff report.
All right, thank you. The applicants have already introduced themselves at the beginning. I maybe got a little ahead of things there. So we can move into, I guess, public hearing. Do we have anyone here from the public? I know there was no written testimony. Anyone aware? Okay. In that case, a motion probably be in order to.
Mr. Chair, do we want to hear from the applicants?
Yeah, that's a great point. We probably would, Jason, wouldn't we? I know we were going to ask them here shortly, but I got out of order. So, all right, John and Corrine, why don't we go back to you? If you want to take us through a little bit of your thought process here in your application.
Well, this is a property that we've had since 1999, and the current walls that are there have been existing for quite a long time. I think we determined that Um, the walls that are closest to the lake probably have been there very, very long. But they are railroad ties, and we have really wanted to get them out of there. They're failing, things are slipping, and we just really want to clean it up and be good to the property and get that a little bit more controlled and usable. It's just really getting, the walls are just kind of falling apart, and really just needs care for safety reasons and use for our usage.
Okay.
So.
Thank you. And did I hear there was someone from the public that wanted to join? Okay, all right. Hey, thank you, Karina. Was there anything else that you wanted to add about the project?
Not that I know of. This is our first time doing this, so.
All right, hey, no worries. You know what? You and me both. No, just kidding. Thank you for that. It does sound like there is someone here from the public. Before we go to that, are there any other questions or anything from commission members for the applicants?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. Just a couple of questions. So walls 5 and 7, did those have anything to do with the integrity of the septic system?
I'm not sure I can answer that.
The integrity of the septic, the leach field's up on elevation with the road.
Okay.
This is Zach Stadansky, the contractor. The top wall would be part of probably holding that septic system so it maintains where it's at. Yes, those two upper walls would be part of that.
Okay, so in order to maintain, so if I understand right, in order to maintain the septic system in a functional condition, the replacements of wall 5 and 7 is critical.
Yes, those two walls would hold those septic systems where they are at.
Okay. And then my second question is, I read on here you're looking at shortening the wall lengths by about 15 feet from the south property line. Is that all of the walls?
Yes, so all the walls will actually be 15 feet away from the property lines on both the south and the north sides of the property.
Okay. That's my questions. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions?
Yes, this is Rich. I got a question for staff. I believe there was a letter by Greg Berg assessing the steepness of the slope and alternatives that could be used to stabilize the bluff. Yes, I was going to ask if we could have that posted and people could review that. Thank you.
Thanks, Rich. Any other questions for the applicants?
Mr. Chair?
Yes, Joe.
What's the date on the septic? When was the last update on the septic?
Staff,
it was just completed a couple weeks ago, just June 1st of this year.
Thank you. Are you good, Joe?
That's good. I just wanted to make sure that it was up, to code and everything was fine.
Okay, very good. I had a question for the applicants or the contractor. One of the things that I just noticed out on the site, with the retaining walls, it seemed to me based on the plan that it looks like possibly some of those oak trees would be impacted by the walls. What was your plan with some of those trees or trying to work around the existing vegetation?
In the plan, there is a couple of those trees that will be removed. A couple of them are diseased and are leaning towards the building that's there. So I think we are going to be removing 2 oak trees, and then we will be removing one of the ironwood trees, and then the other trees. There's two or three that would be impacted by our walls. One wall we will is actually going to be right at 50 feet. It's like 49, 48 feet. So we're just going to actually end that wall right there and leave that tree alone. And the other tree that might be impacted will be really close. If needed, we will just bump that out. So instead of running a straight wall, we would have a slight curve in that wall to go around that tree.
Okay. All right. In your experience, and this is just, it's limited experience, but I have experienced a few retaining walls over the years when done. White oaks are particularly sensitive. Red oaks not quite as bad, but they're a little bit sensitive to compaction and differences in terrain. Have you experienced any of that and put any consideration into that with the design or installation of the walls?
Yeah, so the oak trees are more sensitive to compaction. The route we've chosen to get in and out of the site, we will be staying away from as many as we can and keeping our tracks in the same spot to limit compaction on the site. The other thing we did on this site is I actually have a larger excavator that I can reach further, so I can stay away from those trees. What I need to do to limit our compaction and to limit exposed roots as much as possible.
Okay, thank you.
Battery 70%. Connected to.
Mr. Chair?
Yes, sir, Joe.
With the applicants, what is the plan for the shed and what is the overall plan for the property?
I have any plans.
So we're kind of still in the air on that one. We're going to, obviously the shed that's existing there right now, I mean, we'll maintain that. We use it for storage. But at this point, we're still not clear what we're really going to do with it. I mean, we've talked about getting a camper. I mean, we just haven't really decided yet.
I think what we're going to put on it is going to have wheels on it. It's going to be a camper. We're not looking at using this for year-round use. It's going to be recreational property. Right. The shed's unfinished right now, and it's functioned as a shed. I don't think we're going to expand on it or anything. We may, in the future,
I mean, we want to see kind of
fix
what this,
it up, but without changing the footprint.
Yeah, just once we see it all get done, then I think we can get a better sense for what the property could be used for. But it is for just our recreational use, not a home site. So.
Okay. Thank you. Did that address your question, Joe?
Just a question for staff. If we go forward with this plan at the top of the bluff, then behind the last retaining wall, is there enough space actually to put on a structure, or the setbacks from the road, would a structure be minimal or prohibitive?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, it's a 63-foot setback from that road, and then given the bluff, if there were expansion into that bluff, that would be difficult to do that. And then obviously the lake setback would come into play here as well. There may be a building line if it is a principal structure on. Let's see. Does not look. I don't have the view for the zoomed out for the north parcel. But if there's a building line, that would potentially be there. But because it is bluff and expansion there, we would likely be looking at a variance.
Okay. And then, Mr. Chair, and then likewise for the grassy area towards the middle, that I think there was a mobile home there at one time, perhaps. Would that be available for any type of structure, or is that also too small for any type of structure?
Just for clarification, the area where the camper used to be.
Yes.
That it would be fairly limited in size in that location. So, is there possibly something that could go there? Possibly. I don't know that it would meet the setback where that's located, though.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. Any other questions for the applicants? With that, we can move into the public hearing. It does sound like we have someone with us for that. Deb, if you could help maybe getting them on.
Everyone hear me okay?
Yeah, we can now. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record.
Mike Callahan, 23021 411th Avenue, Arlington, Minnesota. I'm representing Minnesota Paving and Materials out of Rogers, Minnesota.
All right. Hey, thank you. I think you're here for the next agenda item. We're still on agenda item number 1. So if you don't mind just hanging tight for a little bit, we'll get back to you shortly.
Yep, no, I'm good.
All right, thank you. All right. Is there anyone from the public here for agenda item number 1, which is the major shoreline alteration application? Okay, Jim Atchison, I do see that. Yeah, I see that they planned on calling in. Jim, are you with us?
Mr. Chair, I am. I don't have any further comments at this point, so I will relinquish my time. Thank you.
Oh, okay. Thank you, Jim. All right. With that, a
Mr.
motion
Chair,
of the order. Oh,
does
go ahead,
Jim
Joe.
understand that he will not have a chance to speak later? So, Jim, if you have anything to add, you have to add it now, because once we close the public hearing, you will not be able to comment.
I am aware of that. Thank you, sir.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Jim. With that, a motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
Can you hear me now?
Jason Wiederman, so moved.
Thanks. We have a motion by Jason. Do we have a second?
Can you still not hear me?
I
second that. This is Rich.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Sean, that might have been you. We just picked up the tail end, if that was you.
Okay. Am I just kind of hanging in and out or breaking up? Is it okay, or is it acceptable now?
I can hear you real well now, Sean. There was just, I think, a little bit of a delay, but I did get a second. I think that was Rich, correct?
Yes, that was me.
Thanks, Rich. Okay. With that, well, we'll do a quick roll call on if you're in on that. So, Jason.
Aye.
All right, Sean.
Aye.
Thank you. Ken.
Aye.
Mike.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Seconded the motion, and I am also an aye. So, public hearing is closed. We will go on to any other discussion on this matter by commission members.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. On the Stearns SWCD letter, Greg Berg has indicated that he does not believe the pollinator seed mix will survive because of the shadiness of the site. If the other commission members are in agreement, when we come down to the condition, I would like to add the condition that a woodland site mix be used as recommended.
Yeah, I think that's a good suggestion, Jason. I did see those comments too. So if we can make that note about the woodland mix. And is there any concern from the applicants or the contractor on that condition?
There's no concern from my point yet.
Okay.
Thank
you.
None from us either.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments or discussion from members? One of my concerns, which I asked and addressed the applicants with earlier, was just in regard to the trees. It's always it's always a little bit nerve-wracking on a real steep shoreline, particularly on that section of the chain of lakes, which has experienced some erosion issues in the past, just disturbing some of that natural vegetation that's been there. That was one of my concerns. It does sound like there's some plans by the contractor to be cognizant of that, so that is good to hear. I would assume they probably don't want to lose any trees unnecessarily either. I didn't inspect a couple of those trees well enough to see if they were in fact diseased or not, but I'll take at their word. So I guess depending on where everyone else is at, I'm okay. I do like the plan overall, with the vegetation on the perimeters, and I think that was well thought out. Obviously, a lot of walls are challenging. Less walls is always better. When you have a lot this steep, though, you are a little bit limited. So, any other discussion?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Like you had said, less walls is better. And I take a look at the property and the bluff that's there, and the necessity of the walls for what they want to do with the property if they are necessary. I can see the top wall to maintain the integrity of the septic system, which then would also allow them to put an RV up on top, additional plantings of trees, and over time, I do believe the existing retaining walls would actually come out, and actually it would move back to a more natural bluff that it was intended to. Putting in the additional walls, I don't see is really not much of a benefit to them nor to the lake. So I would take a look at what Greg Berg has said. That bank is being held by the existing vegetation that's there. We're going to be tearing it up to put walls up and as close as 15 feet away from the water line. So I guess I don't particularly care for the plan that's being presented to us.
Any other thoughts from members, either the same or I guess differing from Joe?
I guess the only dissent I have on it, I like the idea of getting rid of the railroad ties close to the water down there, because the old railroad ties have creosote in them, and that's better off not being down there. That's a toxin, so I'm for it because of that reason.
Okay. Thank you, Mike.
Mr. Chair, let me respond to that. There's no question about that. And so if we would do additional plantings down there, in a year or two, maybe then those ties could be taken out, opposed to putting a wall at that place. The creosote has taken its toll already. And, waiting a year or two for that vegetation to establish itself and then bringing those ties out would resolve that.
Yeah. I guess my thought, to your point, Joe, and we largely agree on it. I also try to compare that, though, with, a property owner's right to do some things with their property. Obviously, you're going to try to not negatively impact the water system in this particular case. And that's where I do like the way this is designed. It probably has more walls than ideal. But I look at it as compared to what's there today, and I think it's an improvement, and an improvement that will last. It has the potential to be sustainable for 25 to 30 years with minimal adjustments, which I think is a good thing. The current situation is not great, so sometimes it's about compromise on some of this stuff. I don't have as much of a problem with the bottom wall because it was kind of existing down there anyway, and with that vegetation down below it, I think it's an improvement, but that's my opinion as well. So any other thoughts or opinions on this?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I would agree with you. We're not dealing with a native site here. So as you stated, where they're trimming down 15 feet of each wall, we're pulling out 2 of the walls, and replacing what's there already. I mean, had this come to us as a native site, I think the applicant would have had a lot more trouble making a justification. However, as you state, we're actually getting back some of what we lost. And also, if you look at the sites on either side of this, this is actually remarkably intact. Both neighboring sites have substantially large walls on their properties. So I commend the landowner on being willing to pull out some of their walls and maintain the existing vegetation in spite of what they see their neighbors doing.
Yeah. Thanks, Jason. Any other comments from board members?
Yes, Mr. Chair. However, I don't believe the neighboring properties have an accumulation of 16 feet of wall, and that's what we're looking at here. If I look at the recommendation from Greg Berg, he's not suggesting keeping all the walls in place that are proposed. I think he's suggesting just a couple of walls. Is that not correct?
Joe, yeah, his recommendation was, I believe, to leave wall 7 and wall 2.
Correct. And I would be supportive of that.
Okay. I guess to play off Jason Wienerman's point, I think Greg's recommendation is a really, really good one, and that would be a perfect state for the property considering its existing condition. Sometimes it's hard. I don't want to let better get in the way of perfect. And I think the plan that's here is better. Greg obviously is making a recommendation for perfect with those considerations, and that's the balancing act. So I guess I'm more where Jason's coming from right now, that this is an improvement to what's there. It may not be perfect, but it's dramatically better. I thought it was well thought out considering what's there. So, any other thoughts from other members? Okay. Well, if there's no other discussion, a motion would be in order.
Hello, this is John Whalen, one of the applicants. Basically, all I want to do is maintain.
Hold
on. John, real quick, and I'll apologize for this. I'll let you speak real quick. Typically, this is something that.
Okay.
At this point, yeah. So you don't have to speak if you don't want to. If there's something you really want to get out, go ahead and share that real quick, because I didn't explain that I should have better. But it's up to you, John. Quick, if you want to mention something.
Okay, it's just real simple. We're trying to make improvements to the land to make the highest and best use that's also economically feasible. With that being said, that's just my point on it. That's all.
Okay. Thank you, John. Appreciate that.
Then, Mr. Chair, let me respond to that. If he's looking at economical feasible, and you talked about a perfect plan, if Greg Berg's proposal offers a perfect plan and it's economical feasible to put number 7 and number 2 in, it seems like that would be a win-win situation for everybody.
Oh, I will ask the applicant that again. So have you seen Greg Bird's recommendation when it comes to retaining walls?
We did not.
No.
Okay. Nick, would it be possible to pull that back up onto the screen? One of the things he mentioned, he was very favorable of many parts of the plan. But there was a couple concerns that he had. And Nick, I don't know if it's possible to zoom in on that. Well, I can zoom in on my own. I'm not sure if everyone's able to see. Oh, Angie, that's you. All right, thank you, Angie. Just getting to a couple of the key points here. He's just talking about number 2, the other options. to deal with some of the nearshore slope areas using native vegetation. And you have a lot of that in already, and this would just be a matter of expanding that. So if you want to take a second to review that and see if it's something that you'd be open to. Angie, do you mind scrolling down a little bit in case you're trying to read through this?
I would say I probably will defer to Zach a little bit on this. I guess I thought when we were talking about it, we were already thinking we were shortening 2 walls. And so, kind of hearing what you're saying, but we thought with shortening them and then doing the existing plantings, we were trying to come up with, a plan that kind of met what you are looking for too, as people work with these situations. So I think that's where we were at with it. But Zach, if you have any comments.
I really don't. I know, as the chair has stated, if you look at other properties nearby, from a contractor's point, I get that all the time of, I want to do what my neighbor did. Well, lots of times the neighbors do it without our best to make as much usable land while doing our best to maintain the lakes. The different levels we have will provide areas for sitting, for viewing, for enjoying their lake home while balancing the runoff and land management as well. That would be what I have to add.
Very good. Thanks, Zach. And thanks for the question. Looking at this and have a fair amount of experience on Lakeshore, not to the level that some have. I think the biggest concern, and probably where Greg was coming from, is on some of these slopes, the removal of the 2 oak trees are challenging and they may be diseased. One of the things that happens potentially as those trees come out, the landscaping is all done real well, but as those roots start to rot away, it creates instability in the soil, which can now change the dynamics sometimes of those walls, and unintended consequences happen. Now, that's years out, and it's one of those things you're trying to, it's a potential. It doesn't mean it's going to happen. But I think those are some of the concerns always when looking at just disturbing natural vegetation in general. This isn't a lot of natural or a lot of disturbance, but there is some. And so probably, I guess I shouldn't speak for Greg, but I'm thinking those are some of his concerns with comment number 3. The existing site conditions are pretty vulnerable to slope failure when disturbance happens. So, but I think all good points made around here. So to that point, are there any other members that have questions, comments, things they want to state? Or otherwise we are ready for a motion one way or another.
Mr. Chair?
Yes.
Should we go through the findings of fact and maybe these things will work their way out?
That's probably what Jennifer was trying to indicate to me before, right? Thank you. Yeah, we'll work our way through that. Thank you for the reminder, Ken. As I said, I'll definitely take help here. So, all right, we'll go to findings of fact. If we look at number 1, is the proposal consistent with existing county ordinances? Specify the applicable section of the ordinance and discuss why or why not.
Mr. Chair, perhaps the staff can provide the citation after the fact, but I do believe this is appropriate for existing county ordinance. And we are recovering the site, so we're improving upon what is there.
Okay. All right. And staff, could you comment on that? My computer's froze up here.
Sure, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members. That section Let's see. Can be added. I did not list that specific section in the staff report.
I'm comfortable with Nick adding it after the fact.
Okay.
Works for me.
All right. All right. I'm good with that too. Number 2, are there any other standards, rules, or requirements that the proposal must meet?
Mr. Chair, we have the 3 existing conditions, plus the one about using the woodland mix, if the commission's okay with that.
Yeah, very good. So
Mr. Chair,
that
I'd also point out the Sauk River Watershed District erosion control permit that's required.
okay, Sean. So that would be a 5th condition.
That's, I don't know that that's actually a condition. Isn't that, wouldn't that be part of, I don't know, needs to be then that.
Well, real quick, Sean, I'm just getting this. So you were, your comment was to make sure that Sauk River Watershed District erosion management plan was followed.
I believe that one a permit is required. I'm not sure. Correct me if I'm wrong there, staff.
Nick, is that accurate?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Planning Commission members, it wouldn't necessarily need to be a condition here, but it is something that they will need to work with the Sauk River Watershed District on to obtain that permit.
Okay. All right. So then we will not need to make that a condition. That's already a condition. So thanks, Sean, for that comment. Okay. Number 3, is the proposed use compatible with the present and future land uses in the area, and can it be separated by distance or screening from adjacent land uses? Why or why not? I guess additionally, how will any scenic views as viewed from the water body or public place be impacted by the proposed use as well?
There's going to be a major change, Jason, when you look at 16 feet of retaining wall, either being concrete or boulder from the lake level. That's a major change. Unless they do something to buffer those walls with some kind of planting, vegetation, whatever it takes. Otherwise, you're looking at 16 feet of wall.
True statement. True statement, Rich. I think the other point to that, even just adding the native vegetation, which is in the current plan, will be a change. So there's maybe the downside of seeing a lot of retaining wall from the lake side. There's also the benefit of seeing probably a lot more native vegetation than what currently exists today. So impacted in a couple ways.
Mr. Chair?
Any other? Yes, Joe?
Mr. Chair, I would disagree with that because the first wall is 3.5 feet high and it's only 15 feet away from the water. Okay? To me, that's going to be extremely visible, and in that 15 feet, I don't know, what are you going to be placing there? And then, what would be necessarily the use of that? With Greg Berg's recommendation that the wall would be back at 25 feet, and you could actually have maybe a slope down there to the water with some vegetation. So, I don't like, putting a 3.5-foot wall just 15 feet away from the water's edge.
Yeah, Joe, I know the current plan calls for lake plantings, vegetative plantings between the wall and the lake shore. So Carex species, sedges in essence, along with some others. So it would be, some of that would be there. It's a matter of the additional 10 feet or not.
Mr. Chair, I'd also like to point out that the adjacent properties are highly developed with grass planted along the entire length of the property. So maintaining the trees, shrubs, and replanting the vegetation is going to create, this is going to be a different site than what is the two neighbor sites, with a little more natural look to it.
Thanks, Jason. All right, so we have some comments there along number 3. I think we agree it's going to be impacted in some ways positively, in some ways negatively. Number 4, how are the potential environmental impacts, groundwater, surface water, air quality, wellhead protection, fish and wildlife habitat of the proposal being addressed? One comment, there is vegetative buffers planned basically around all sides of the property, from the slope sides along both neighboring properties and then along the lakeshore itself. The one exception would be on the roadside. So, you know, we're all talking about degrees of impact. And I think there's been a lot of things in the current plan that have been done to try to impact the conditions to the water runoff on everything. And we're dealing with differing opinions as to the impact of those walls. So I think they've been addressed. I think addressed suitably. But if others feel differently, chime in.
Mr. Chair, if I may, can you hear me now?
Yeah, Sean.
Okay. I'd like to point out that actually the whole thing, the whole application is about trying to stall a really bad environmental impact. We have to, I agree with Jason that we have to find some compromise here, and we have to be able to try to let these people be able to use their property. And this seems like a fair compromise as it is. And we just want to stop the slope from sliding into the water.
Yeah. Thank you, Sean. Number 5. Go ahead, Joe.
Let me ask Sean. Sean, are you talking about Greg Berg's recommendation, or are you talking about the proposal of the 5 walls?
They're so very similar when it comes right down to it about their placement and what their approach and purpose is. If I'm going to side with the applicant and their approach. I like their idea, and I realize that yes, Greg. We always take what Greg says seriously. He knows what he's talking about, but we can't fulfill his every wish.
All right. Number 5, how will potential impacts of the proposal affect the property values of the area in which it's proposed?
No information provided about that.
Okay, thank you, Rich. How does the proposal affect the general health, safety, and welfare of the residents?
Mr. Chair, this is Ken Mossman. I know if they put new steps there, it will be much safer to walk down to the water level than the steps that are presently there. So I would say there'd have to be an improvement there.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Ken. Number 7, does the proposal conform to the goals and objectives of the county's comprehensive plan? Specify which goals and objectives apply.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I believe they do to several of the nature objectives. The first one being the nature goals. Number 1, I'm going to say restore important natural systems and natural resources, and that we are seeing an improvement and a reduction in some of the wall length and number of walls. And then also the water resource policies, which is recognizing a relationship between land use and water quality, and continue to support water quality improvements through land use plans and regulations.
All right. Very good. Thank you, Jason. Number 8, has the applicant provided financial assurance to guarantee reclamation or cleanup?
Mr. Chair, not required for this application.
All right, thank you. And number 9, any other issues pertinent to this matter? No, I think it's pertinent that there's been a lot of input on this from Greg Berg, from the applicant. I do think that it's what I liked from the applicant is that a lot of the things that have been recommended as part of the long-term comprehensive plan dealing with sensitivity to runoff and things like that have been addressed by a large part of these, and it's so I do think that best intentions were made to these plans, and it's reasonable use. Any other thoughts?
Mr. Chair, I guess I would include the comments from Greg Berg. I think those are pertinent to the issues for staff, or for the board, I'm sorry.
Yeah, agreed. Thank you, Joe. All right, unless there's anything else that anyone wants to comment on, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman, I would propose a recommendation to recommend approval for the board at their upcoming meeting.
Mr. Chair,
All right.
I'd like to second it.
All right, very good. And just to confirm, that's with the 4 proposed conditions, correct?
Correct, thank you.
Okay, all right, thank you. Then we'll quick do a roll call on the vote. Jason Wienerman.
Aye.
Sean Blackburn.
Aye.
Ken Mossman.
Aye.
Mike Prell.
Aye.
Rich Blankish.
Nay.
All right, and Jason Crone, chair votes aye. So with that, it is 5-1 to recommend approval to the county board, and that this will now move on to the the county commissioners to review at their next meeting. So thank you to the applicants for joining us, and thanks everyone for your comments on that one. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 2, and that's to consider an interim use permit application submitted by Minnesota Paving and Materials, Mankato, Minnesota, on behalf of Daniel and Nicole Lang, Richmond, Minnesota, according to sections 4.18, 6.17, and 9.3.6b of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 to operate a temporary asphalt mixing facility on approximately 11.5 acres in the agricultural A40 zoning district until November 1st of 2022. The proposal is located in part of the southwest quarter, southeast quarter, lying east of County Road 71 and south of 223rd and 23rd Street in Section 19 in Wakefield Township. With that, if we can go to the staff report. And Jennifer has been having challenges with her audio tonight, so we'll just hang tight here for a second, see if we can get her. As we wait for staff, we can do a quick roll call of members who visited the site. So we'll start with you, Jason.
Yep, yes.
All right, thank you. Sean. Sorry, Sean, I didn't hear you that time. Okay, thank you, Sean. Ken.
I just visited it the first time. I didn't revisit it this time. I figured it didn't change.
Yeah, fair. Thank you, Ken. Mike?
Yep.
All right. Rich?
Yes, I did.
Thank you, Rich. And I was kind of like Ken. I visited recently. I didn't go back the second time, but was there. So very good. Oh, sorry, Joe. I didn't ask you. Were you there?
Yes, I was.
Thanks, Joe. All right. And Jennifer's still working on that. For what it's worth, we did hear a little bit of mumbled audio a second ago, so I'm not sure if that was coming from you or not. Okay. In the sake of time, is it okay to go to applicant introductions right now, just to keep some of this moving? Okay, we're going to bounce ahead a little bit and go to the applicant introductions here while Jennifer keeps working on her audio. So, and I believe we were going to have Mike and Kevin and Nathan Callahan joining us for this. So if you guys could take turns. Nathan, are you still on? I believe we talked to you earlier. All right, I'm not hearing Nathan. How about, go ahead. Is this Mike?
This is Mike Callahan.
Oh, Mike Callahan. Oh, I'm sorry. One of these notes is on. All right, Mike. If you don't mind introducing, okay, just mention your name, but your address for the record.
23021 411th Avenue, Arlington, Minnesota.
All right. Thank you very much. And then how about Kevin? Is he able to join us via audio?
Can you hear me?
It sounds like we're getting close. We're getting close, Jen. So, Mike, thank you. I think we're ready. We'll bounce over to Jen here for a staff report. If you give me the thumbs up, Jen.
All right, can you hear me, Jason? Through the mics? Everyone else hear me? Okay.
We have you, Jen. All right, we'll go to the staff report. Thank you, everyone, for bearing.
Thank you so much for your patience. Yes. Okay. Please speak up if you can't hear me very well. Let me know. So this property probably looks familiar because we had a public hearing on it 3 weeks ago, 2.5 weeks ago. This is the Dan Lang property in near Richmond, and the request before us is for a temporary asphalt mixing plant, as Jason mentioned. As you remember, a couple weeks ago, you had an interim use permit request for a mining operation at the same site, and that was approved. So that was approved by the board June 2nd. That was for the pit was intended for the purposes of reconstructing County Road 71, and now this asphalt plant is for that same project. And they are requesting that the asphalt plant the permit be valid till October 1st. And I see that I say October 1st, 2022, and that should be 2021. In the staff report there. So the zoning on this property is agricultural 40. Part of this property, it's a 76-acre parcel in total. Part of the property is in the shoreline overlay district, but the gravel pit itself and the asphalt plant will not be in shoreline or floodplain. There are wetlands in the area, but the proposal will not impact wetlands. So the access to the site will be directly off County Road 71 onto a shared driveway, which actually has a name. I think it's 223rd Street, into the pit, and then that's where they will have the asphalt plant set up. The proposed maps show that the location will meet all setbacks from property lines and neighboring dwellings. Let's see. So the hours of operation they're requesting would be 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Sunday, with 1 hour warm-up and cool-down periods on either end of that. The mining permit that was just approved was for 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. An informational sign is required at the entrance of the gravel pit to clearly state the name, phone number of the property owner, the site operator, and the hauling contractor. If the permit's approved, there would be a requirement for a $5,000 financial guarantee to be submitted to ensure removal of equipment and cleanup when the plant is removed from the property. As you know, looking at the maps and being out on site, the surrounding land uses is really a mixture of lakeshore properties and some ag use, and there's quite a bit of commercial or industrial use nearby too, off of near Highway 23. Let's see. If the Planning Commission recommends approval, the conditions we would suggest would address hours of operation, an expiration date for the permit, requiring truck hauling signs during times of hauling, requiring that the recycled asphalt pavement and excess materials be removed upon completion of the operation, and requiring that $5,000 financial guarantee to ensure reclamation and cleanup. That is all I have.
All right, thank you, Jen. Back to the applicant, Mike, anything you'd like to add to the staff report?
No, she covered it fairly well. The only reason we're asking for the 1 hour before and 1 hour after is for the staging of trucks. The plan itself would not be operating until the said guidelines that would be implied in this interim use permit. And that's all I really need to touch on that. Is there any questions for me?
You know, just a real quick question, Mike, for clarification, the warm up and cooling period before and after, just explain that process. I believe that's a relatively quiet process, correct?
Yeah, so there's really no machinery or equipment that'll be operating. It's more along the lines of making sure that all the heaters and everything are in line, they're started to get that oil to a temperature that we can use to produce hot mix.
All right, very good, thank you. Are there any other questions by commission member, planning commission members?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. So when we did the original mining operation, you had that 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday. You're requesting the same hours here except all week, Monday through Sunday. Why the difference?
Mr. Chair, that was again my typo on the staff report. Their application says Monday through Saturday. I just double checked that. Sorry about that.
I withdraw my question.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right, very good. Any other questions? Okay, hearing none, we can move into the public hearing. Anyone here from the public to comment? I do not believe we had any letters. Okay. In that case, hearing no one chiming in and not being aware of any letters from the
Mr. Chair,
public.
Jason Wienerman, motion to close the public hearing.
Thank
Mr.
you,
Chair,
Jason.
Mr. Chair, Mike Pearl, second.
Thank you. Motion made, second made by Mike. All those in favor, Jason?
Aye.
Sean?
Aye.
Ken?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
Rich?
Aye.
And Jason is also an aye. So we will move on to any other correspondence discussion by the members on this.
Mr. Chair, just a question for my fellow commissioners on this. I have not been on a site, a mining site, or an asphalt site when they're in operation. Do they sound about the same? Is the asphalt operation less noisy? What can we expect in terms of this from your experience?
You know, I'm not an expert on this, Jason, but in my experience, the asphalt portion's much quieter. Usually the loudest part of any aggregate mining that I've been a part of is the screening process. And that's when the shakers are going and basically you're settling out the different sizes of aggregate. That process can be fairly loud. That's why berms are typically built up around the outside. In my experience, the asphalt side of it is usually a lot quieter, but maybe others have had different experience or more experience in that matter. Does the applicant want to, Mike, you want to comment on that?
Yeah, I manage both aggregate locations and hot mix locations. And just like he said, the asphalt production itself is extremely quiet. You're going to have, backup alarms due to, OSHA rules for equipment. If we do receive any complaints, anyone can get a hold of me. And if there's any requests, we can put on different kind of alarms. We can switch to the squawkers. So instead of hearing the loud beep, you would actually hear more of a squelch. And it just sounds like psh, psh, psh. And it's just loud enough to where the people around the equipment would hear that.
All
Okay,
right.
thank you for the insights.
Thank you. Any other discussion before moving on to the findings of fact? All right, we'll move into that. So with that, findings of fact, is a proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Jason, Rich here, it is consistent with zoning ordinance 439, sections 4.18, 6.17, and 9.3.6A.
Very good. Thank you, Rich. Number 2, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? List the applicable sections.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn here. It does conform to the land use, future land use map and agricultural rural area. We also wanted to protect the county's aggregate resources and provide for a reasonable economic use of aggregate when we look at the comprehensive plan in nature goals. For 4.
Very good. Thank you, Sean. Number 3, is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not? Yeah, just to comment, it is rural to a degree. The compatibility, there's currently an aggregate pit that's being operated there. So I think in the interim, an asphalt plant is consistent with an aggregate mine. So I believe it's consistent. If any others feel differently, chime in.
I would just like to comment that people living around that in a given distance are going to smell the asphalt. And I think that's, if we're going to get any kind of complaints, I think that's maybe where it's going to come from, is the odor.
That's true.
Other than that, we have the mining operation going.
Yeah, right on. For those close to that, go ahead, Jason.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, I think as we talked about at our last meeting, this is really close to the project site. So hauling and I mean, it's a short-term project, so I know it's going to be an inconvenience, but it's got to be somewhere. It's close to the site. We deal with what we have.
Yeah, that's right. And furthermore, I think anyone in that area or spends much time in that area, this is an interim use. Really, I mean, it's a short period, and that area, depending on which way the wind is going, you're going to get the sights and smells of agriculture, or the A&W, depending if you have a northwest wind. So, number 4, how has the applicant demonstrated that standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I would like to recommend that we have the 5 conditions with the set operation of hours from 6 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday, with 1 hour before and after for warm-up and cool-down, and then an expiration date of October 1st of 2021.
Yeah, very good. Thank you, Jason. And then number 5, any other issues pertinent to the matter? Township, federal, environmental issues, anything like that? I think it's pertinent that there is an existing aggregate mine there, and this is part of a project that's very close by. So other than that, okay. Oh, okay. I just got a note that Kevin was having audio issues, and he did have one thing he wanted to add, one of the applicants. So, Kevin, if you're with us now, if you want to chime in real quick before, I guess as we wrap up here, the findings of fact.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. I couldn't get on for some reason. I was muted. But Kevin Foster, 6325 55th Street, Northeast Sauk Rapids, Minnesota. I'm the area manager, project manager for MPM. So just one comment is she had mentioned October 2021. The wear course on this project does not get completed until July of 2022, weather permitting. So I believe that was supposed to say 2022, just to have that extra leeway in case something happens that we don't get done by the completion date.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, I would amend my recommendation to reflect October 2022.
Okay. Thank you, Jason. All right, and thank you, Kevin, for chiming in on that. It doesn't
Thank
sound
you
like
for
there's
letting me in.
going to be an issue. You bet. I don't think there'll be an issue there. So, all right, hearing no other issues and going through the findings of fact, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Mike Perrell, I'd like to put forth a motion to approve with the 5 conditions.
All right. Thank you, Mike. Do I have a second?
Mr. Chair, this is Sean. I'll second that motion.
All right. So motion made by Mike, seconded by Sean. I'm going to roll through and we'll start with Jason.
Aye.
All right.
Aye.
Sean, you seconded. Sean, you seconded, so I'm going to count you as an aye. Ken?
Aye.
All right. Mike, you made the motion, so you're an aye. And then Rich?
Yeah, aye.
All right. And I am also an aye. So motion passes unanimously. This will move on to the county commissioners. Thank you to the applicants for being with us.
Thank you for your time, everybody.
Thanks. All right. With that, we'll move on to agenda item number 3, and that is to consider an interim use permit application submitted by Heather and Mike Madison, North Mankato, according to sections 4.18, 6.62, and 9.9.6a of the Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439 to operate a vacation private home rental in the residential zoning district. The proposal is located in lots 1, 2, and 3, Block 4 of Clearwater Harbor, lying east of County Road 144 and west of Grass Lake in Section 32, Linden Township. The property address is 14232 County Road 144 in South Haven, Minnesota. With that, we will go over to staff for the report.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. We actually got a request late this afternoon from the applicant to have this item continued to the July meeting. So they stated there's communications that they're having with, I believe, the Watershed District possibly. But anyway, they are asking the item be continued to the Planning Commission meeting on July 15th, 2021.
All right. Thank you, Jen.
Mr.
And
Chair,
we don't
Jason
need to.
Linderman. So
Yeah.
moved.
Okay. Thank you. Do I have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. I think that was Sean, correct?
Yes.
Motion by Jason. Okay. So we have a motion by Jason, second by Sean.
Mr. Chair, before we move, one question. So I believe there was a comment on this. Somebody had sent a letter commenting on this. Will that respondent be notified of the continuation?
Mr. Chair, yes, we will do that. We had received a handful of letters, I think 3 of them. So we will let them all know that the item was continued. Other than that, we don't have to renotice it because we are continuing it to a specific date.
Okay, thank you very much.
Perfect. Thank you. So we had a motion by Jason, second by Sean. Ken, are you in favor?
Yes.
All right. Thank you, Mike.
Yes.
All right, Rich.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. So we will move this to the July meeting. So with that, we go to item number 4, That's to consider a rezoning request submitted by Jesse Welsh, St. Joseph, Minnesota, according to Section 4.10 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to rezone approximately 10 acres from the Ag 40 zoning district to the residential R10 zoning district. The property is part of Lot 6, Block 1, Feen Estates, lying west of County Road 4 and north of 345th Street in Section 22, St. Wendell Township. The property address is 10448 345th Street in St. Joseph. So with that, we'll move to a staff report.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this is a 25-acre property, currently zoned A40, so it's allowed the one home, and they're requesting to have 10 acres of it be rezoned to R10. If it's approved, they plan to split off that 10-acre site for one additional residence. The property has access from, so it's on a corner, so access from 345th Street and County Road 4. This area they're requesting to rezone has frontage on County Road 4. The property is a mixture of tillable land and there's wetland on the west side of the property, and it slopes down from the road to the west side. There is a feedlot across the street to the east. We did confirm, we initially had it marked as a less than 10 animal unit site, but we communicated with the landowner and found out it actually has, it's a more than 10 animal unit site. So therefore setbacks will apply from that feedlot for a new home. Being that it's under 100 animal units, the setback requirement is 500 feet. So we do have a map here that shows the feedlot setback. All right. There we go. So the orange line is the 500-foot setback for a new home. And you can see that would still allow some room there to build. The greenish line is 350 feet from the feedlot. So what that line represents is we can't have a residential zoning district within 300 feet of the feedlot. So there's just a very small area of the 10 acres that couldn't be rezoned to R10. So it's minimal, but the map just wouldn't include any area within 350 feet of that feedlot, so we don't cause any issues with the feedlot. So that addresses setback implications. So when you look at the area as a whole, it's a mixture of rural residential uses and ag land. There are approximately 28 homes within a half mile, and there are 2 registered feedlots with more than 10 animal units and 2 feedlots with less than 10 animal units within a half mile. The property itself is surrounded by A40 zoning. The map that is up right now, you can see that there is some R10 zoning about a quarter mile to the northeast. Other than that, the surrounding zoning directly adjacent to it is agricultural 40. The property is not in any overlay districts. It's in the City of St. Cloud's drinking water supply management area, priority area A, for their drinking water supply. Being that this proposed use would be a new home, that does not require notification to the city for a new residence. And as I stated, if it's approved, it would allow 1 additional home to be built. The LISA score was run for the 10 acres requesting to be rezoned. That came back at 59.55, which falls just below the threshold of 65. St. Wendell Township did review and recommend approval of the rezoning request, and that is included in your packet. That's all I have for the staff report, and when you get to the public hearing, I do have a few letters.
All right. Thank you, Jen. Real quick roll call of members that visited the site. Jason?
Yes.
All right, Sean?
Yes.
Thank you, Sean. Ken?
Yes.
Mike?
Yes.
And Rich?
Yes.
Thank you. And I also visited the site. So with that, are the applicants with us?
Hello, this is Jesse Welsh. I am having
Hi.
bandwidth problems, so that's why my video is not on.
Not a problem, and it's a good choice to turn the video off so we have you audio. That'll work just fine.
Okay.
Is there anything you'd like to add to the staff report, Jesse?
Yes, please. Is this where I put in where I can talk about all my comments here, just my thoughts?
Yeah, you can. And there will be, I know there's a lot of comments from letters that came in, and so those will be read in or addressed in the public discussion here in a bit, and you can address some of those things then, or you can do it now if you'd like. So.
Okay. I will just go ahead and get started now, and I can address anything later.
Okay.
Okay, so thank you. Good evening. My name is Jesse Welsh, and I live at 10448 345th Street in St. Joseph, Minnesota. I'm here tonight with my request for rezoning A40 to R10 application in accordance with Section 4.10 Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance. My goal is to preserve the integrity of our neighborhood on land that is neither highly scored farmland nor land that is located in any growth or expansion area. Since this parcel is not located within any growth or expansion area of the municipality, this possible rezoning would only allow for one home, not multiple. I wanted to address some points regarding my application for the request for the R10 rezoning on my property. Regarding the setbacks from the Stocks empty farm lot, the proposed 10-acre parcel is minimally affected on the east side. This still allows adequate building areas on this parcel. The area affected is very small and remains much of the parcel being unaffected by this feedlot setback. The other setback that has been mentioned is the minimal water setback of 50 feet from the pond. Again, this water setback is not a concern for this parcel since it still leaves vast amounts of land unaffected. To address the concern of valuable farmland, I would refer you to the Land Evaluation Site Assessment Scores, the LESA. This score is derived from the county. The scoring system was designed specifically to assess where the best farmlands are located locally. The system provides an objective and consistent tool for evaluating the relative importance of specific sites for continued agricultural use. The threshold for non-agricultural conversion or rezoning is 65. The score on this 10-acre parcel came in well below the threshold at 59.55. The current 25-acre parcel has vehicular access from 345th Street, a township road, and County Road 4. The area requested to be rezoned would use the existing access off from County Road 4. This existing access off County Road 4 is located nearby, slightly north of the Stocks driveway. This R10 rezoning has received the St. Wendell Township planning approval and has received the approval from the St. Wendell Township. This rezoning aligns with the goals and objectives of Stearns County, and I appreciate your consideration for approval of this request. Thank you, Commission members, for your consideration.
All right. Thank you, Jesse. Do we have any questions from members for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, could we just get the applicant's address as well, please?
Oh, yes, I believe she had stated that, but Jesse, if you don't mind stating it one more time.
Yes, 10448 345th Street in St. Joseph, Minnesota.
All right, thank you. All right, any members have questions for the applicant?
Mr. Chair, maybe more of a question for staff. So on that feedlot diagram you had put up, You said there the 350-foot setback would result in a portion of the land, it looks like what's close to the road, not being allowed to be zoned residential. So does that mean the R10, then that little piece there stays A40?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wienerman, yeah, that would be correct. Yep, that area Angie's outlining there would remain A40.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question, maybe for a combination. I'm going to start with the applicant on this question. I saw somewhere, it might have been in one of the letters, but when you originally purchased this property, was this something like that you had planned to put your house on that portion of it, but due to setbacks, were not able to?
When we moved out here, we were exploring all options, and this option just fit our needs at the time better.
Okay. Thank you for that. I know recently some of the feedback setback rules have changed a little bit, and I wasn't sure if that particular rule impacted your decision in where you place your home. So I appreciate that. Any other questions by members?
Mr. Chair, perhaps staff can answer this question. Across from, I think it's Mr. Stock's driveway, the property line, it has an indentation. I'm just curious why it has that indentation, and it just doesn't run straight. I'm curious.
Yes. Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, that is the county road right-of-way. So for some reason, the county road right-of-way has a jog in it there. That occurs at times due to road curves or slope easements. There's various reasons, but for some reason, the county has a wider right-of-way on part of this.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Chair, Mike Krell, I was a little curious of where on that property do they propose to build that house?
Jesse, do you want to respond to that?
Yes, there's some various options, and we'll be working with the surveyor next to look at some more options. But I think what it would be working best, the available area for building would be, how do I describe it? So if you go, we start on the west side of the land. Of course, the setbacks for the wetland, to apply for them, to be conservative of them. But that whole open area along there, kind of like the L shape, but like a backwards L shape.
Yeah, Angie, we're able to see your handprint. I think, yeah, you've got your cursor right there right now. Is that the area you're referring to, Jesse? I don't know if you can see Angie's cursor. Okay, all right, thank you. Mike, did that answer your question?
Yeah, because I know in the past we've sort of tried to lead the applicants into building a house, either closer to the road or in a corner, is not to chop up the piece. So in the future, when things do change, you're not using up a lot of driveway for waste and stuff.
All right. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. Jesse, were there any other areas on that property that you were looking at as the buildable site, or was that kind of the area you were focused in on?
Well, I think there's multiple areas along, where that dot is. I think, mostly up to the north there. We could also do areas, and I think getting the surveys and other testing out there would really kind of help us pinpoint the best one.
Okay.
But I think there's still a lot of, not just that one there, but to the north, to the east a little bit too. to the west.
Very good. All right, thank you. A question for staff. With the county road, and I know there were some concerns with traffic with that curve and safety issues. Is this something where the county would have input as far as where the driveway location for that parcel would go?
Yes, Mr. Chair. The county highway would definitely have to approve of the driveway location. I did reach out to them for the rezoning request to see if they had any specific comments, and the response was they prefer to comment during the platting part of the process. So when there's an opportunity to access off a township road, that's always their first choice. If there's not that option, then they would work with the landowner on an appropriate location off of a county road. But if the rezoning is approved and then they get to the next step, which is platting, then we would get formal comments from the highway department and definitely would hone in on a spot for a driveway. As Jesse mentioned, there is a field approach here on the property already off of 4. The highway department would evaluate that and determine if that's an okay spot to change from a field approach to a residential approach, or if it should be relocated or something else.
All right, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair?
This is Rich Blankish. I have a question.
Rich, go ahead, and then Joe will come right back to you.
There's reference to 115th Avenue that isn't built, but it is platted. Would the property owner indicate where that 115th Avenue is? I don't see it on this diagram. I mean, it's an option for.
I'm not. Jennifer, would you be able to help point out? Okay.
Sure. Yeah. That 115th Avenue, maybe Angie can point it out with the cursor. It's on the east side of the property, and it's a road that exists on paper, but it's not built. So when Tina Estates was platted, I pulled out the plat, and it shows this that road dedication coming straight off of 4 down to 345th Street. I'm not entirely sure why. Maybe that was on an old township road map. But as you know, there's not a constructed road surface there, so I don't know if how that would fit into the equation for future access or when the plat happens if the rezoning is approved.
All right, thank you. Joe, I know you had a comment.
Right. I'll go back to your question about access off County Road 4 and about approving this rezoning. If the county engineers would say that County Road 4 does not provide them with a safe access, Jesse, do you have an alternative other than County Road 4? Because I'd hate to do a rezoning and then not give you access.
I would have to probably, there we go. I guess that would be where she drew on the map there. Thank you for doing that.
Yes, but my question, but now you're accessing through another person's property.
That's my property, and then I would have to consider an easement for that.
Okay, and so then that we would have to draw up an easement then off that, and so that would then go on both properties then, correct? Staff, that would provide an easement, and then that the two parcels would both be recorded to have that easement?
Yes, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, that's correct. So there's a few options. If County Highway would come back and say that they can't have a residential driveway there off of 4 because it's not safe, there's a couple options. They could plat the area that's outlined in red and provide an easement to the platted lot, or the plat could include land. The plat could be L-shaped, and have a strip of land going to the south that touches 345th Street. As long as they, build in the area that's rezoned R10, that would be the important part, is that the home would have to be in the R10 area. The plat could include more than that if the rezoning gets approved. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. The only thing is you would then, the southern piece would be divided by a driveway, And then I don't know, about buildable section then to the east of that driveway, but I mean, that's just what I'm wondering. Or because I see it could be problematic because of the wetland that's there, opposed to putting it right on the edge. But I'm just curious about making sure that we have access, and if the highway department decides it can't be accessed off County Road 4.
Yeah. Joe, good question there. I think the easement, there's a few options for the easement, and from my understanding, a lot of that will get sorted out in the platting stage of the property. So it's good.
Yes, Mr. Chair, that's correct. Very good questions to bring up and thinking forward. But the first step would be the rezoning to see if they even could have another home site there. And then we would definitely flesh that out with the platting. Certainly we wouldn't allow a plat to get recorded if it didn't have a proper access.
Very good. Any other questions for members before we move on to the public hearing?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I'm sorry for having to explore this and showing my lack of knowledge. So in terms of the feedlot east of the road, if we approve this for R10, do we limit the ability for them to grow and have more livestock?
That's a good question. I'll let Steph address. I had the same question, but just my observation, Jason, is that property would have a tough time really probably getting a feedlot for more than 100 animal units with its size the way it is, but maybe I'm not accurate on that, so I'll let someone else comment.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wienerman, good question. So if it's rezoned and a home is built there, the feedlot would be confined. The feedlot wouldn't be able to encroach further west toward the residential zoning district boundary or toward the home. So their west line of their feedlot would be limited, but that doesn't necessarily impact within the area that's registered as feedlot. That doesn't necessarily impact, getting more animal units in that area that's registered. It would just impact expansion to the west.
But they could expand north, south, or east if they so choose.
They probably are going to have property line constraints on the north and east, and then possibly wetland constraints on the south. But yeah, that's something they could definitely explore and see how setbacks apply and if they can meet setbacks.
And Jason, one more comment. If they go to the northwest, that existing property would have challenges anyway because they're going to hit other housing setbacks that are currently there. So I don't know to get to that next threshold of 750 or even 500. They're probably pretty stuck the way it is. Good question.
Yeah, you're right, Mr. Chair. They couldn't go up to the 100 animal units because of other homes, like you said, in the area. But right now they're registered for far less than 100 animal units, so they can definitely stick with what they have.
So can they go over 10 or are they stuck at 10?
They are actually registered for over 10. So we initially thought they were less than 10 animal units. Feedlot staff reached out to the stocks in the last week here, and the stocks responded and said they have had more than 10 animal units there in the past 5 years. So their registration can remain active at more than 10 animal units. And so they are a more than 10 animal unit site, but they're less than 100. So the 500-foot setback applies instead of the 700-foot setback, which it used to be.
Okay, thank you.
All right. Any other questions before public hearing? All right. With that, we will move on to that. And I know there were some letters, Jennifer, if you were able to read those into the record.
Yes, Mr. Chair. So we have 4 letters here. So the first one is from Rick Forner, who is on 348th Street. And he states, to whom it may concern, in regards to the request to rezone the Welsh property, I live on 348th Street. That's adjacent to the property, and I'm strongly opposed to the request for multiple reasons, citing hazard of more traffic in the location, already a terrible corner and very dangerous. I believe there's no more access allowed to County Road 4 in that particular location. Also, the teen property has been split for 6 homes already and does not show on the plat map. It doesn't show on the plat map they received in the mail. I'm not going along with allowing more homes, traffic, noise, and destruction of beautiful land and wildlife that has already been affected since the first split. Also was quoted as not high valued farmland, while to those of us who live here, it is. We do not need more of the things that already go on over on the Welsh property, running a business, crowds, noise, traffic, people turning around on our properties, more destruction of the land from the Welsh's tiling out part of the land, creating water flow to pond, which overflows the pond onto properties on 348th Street. Where once was lawn is now too wet for anything. With more building and development, it would be a disaster. FYI, there is also an adjacent feedlot. The noise, traffic, and land destruction should not have to be dealt with by those of us who already lost their peace and privacy, which is why we are living here in the first place. And for the Welshes to say that we need more housing because of the pandemic is absurd. It's about money and should be about what the surrounding people want for their lives. Peace, privacy, and quiet country living that has already been hampered with. Please do not allow this community to be destroyed for someone's capital gain in our lifestyles we have been striving for and working for our entire lives taken away. Also, additional runoff from more housing, septic tiling would flow right into the St. Wendell Bog, SNA, which is protected land. This is already happening from the tiling that has been done already on this property a few years ago. The next letter is from Doug and Mary Stock. We are sending this email today to provide written testimony regarding the request to rezone. We just want to make sure all things are considered with this request. We have a current feedlot at our property at 34662 County Road 4. While we do not have cattle on our property this year, we did have cattle last year and will again next year. When this land was purchased by Andy and Jesse Welsh, they looked to build their current home on the 10 acres that they're now looking to divide out. They were unable to build on this portion because of the feedlot setback and wetland setback. The feedlot setback pushed the building locating backwards toward a large pond, and because of the wetland setback, they had to move the location of their current home. One other consideration that should be made is County Road 4. The construction of this section of road has made it very dangerous, with vehicles speeding around the curve many times in excess of 55 miles per hour. When the Welsh family has their corn maze A&G produce open in the fall, people miss the turn to their place on 345th Street and attempt to turn around in our driveway and or 348th. We have up to 20 cars a day turning around, backing onto County Road 4, or even doing a U-turn, and have witnessed many near misses. This section of road has become dangerous, and we do have concerns if another driveway is added to this section of road as a result of the rezone request that the results will be deadly. Thank you for considering our issues with this request. We would be happy to answer questions you might have and can be reached by phone or in person. Doug and Mary Stock. Another letter from Carrie and Wiljo Toomey. I'm writing to show that I'm not in agreement with this rezoning. We moved here from St. Cloud to get out of the city. We wanted more space for our kids to grow up in a quiet area. We have done city life and we're not interested in having homes right behind us or right next to us. We came here for privacy, to have a safe place to live and raise our children. We don't feel the area is a place for development. I don't feel that they've stated exactly what their plan is besides building. But how big are the lots? How many homes are they looking to build? 10 acres is a lot of space. Are they trying to build 10 homes on 1 acre lots? It's not giving enough information for me to be in agreement. I think that it should be considered. It would be a full breakdown of what their true intentions are going to be. If you look down on 352nd Street, they have a development on that street, but it's reasonably sized lots that still have the country feel we all search for when looking for our homes. Thanks, Carrie and Wiljo Toomey. And then the last letter is from Vera Forner. In answer to the rezoning request submitted by Jesse Welsh, I firmly say no for several reasons. There's no access from County Road 4, without making it more dangerous and a deadly road than it already is. They have a yearly corn maze event that causes vehicles to turn around in my yard and driveway on 348th Street. Angry drivers speeding and spinning out in the gravel because they missed the turn that once was 3 corners and now turned into a very dangerous road, at least as high as 20 cars daily with people screaming till 10 p.m. or after with paintballs flying and making neighborhood dogs bark, sorry. A designated feedlot across the road with setbacks would push a building site too close to the large pond to the west of County Road 4. The Welches already put in drain pipe to drain the water from the fields into the pond, causing neighbors to the north to have their yard flooded. This is not the quiet country life we wanted when we built to farm the land. As stated in Mrs. Walsh's request, it's not highly valued farmland. To the farmer it is, and the land does have a value to the farmer. One person's opinion for more housing in our area, not sufficient for all. Once rezoned, how many more requests will come in? Signed, Vera Forner.
All right, thank you, Jennifer. Do we have anyone on the phone or online from the public in addition to the letters? All right, hearing none, and if you are on, continue to try to chime in, but a motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, one more question for staff. So just for confirmation, if we approve the rezoning, it then goes to the plating committee, and at that time, the highway department will look into it. And if there's cause for concern about accidents or other traffic interference, it will be brought up then, correct?
Mr. Chair, Commissioner Wienerman, if the rezoning is approved and then they go to do the land split, it will be a plat, but it's a minor plat because it's one lot. So we will reach out to highway. Definitely we will have highway comment on the plat. It's required in statute that they have to provide written comments for plats on county roads. It won't be addressed at a platting committee or planning commission meeting, but it will be addressed administratively through the plat process.
Okay, thank you.
You know, and real quick before moving on to the motion, Jesse, as the applicant, is there anything you want to respond to in regard to the letters that have been read in?
I think I would just like to reiterate some of my previous points is that, my goal is to preserve the integrity of the neighborhood. It's important to me, and I think that this is one option to do that. And I think that there are good protocols that we're going through to accomplish that goal. So I appreciate your consideration.
All right, thank you. With that, a motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I move to close the public hearing.
Thank you, Sean. Motion made by Sean. Do I get a second?
I will second that. This is Ken Mossman.
Thanks, Ken. So motion made by Sean, second by Ken. Jason.
Aye.
All right. Mike.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
And I am also an aye. So public hearing is closed. That will take us, any other discussion on this by the members?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here, just in response to several of the comments that appear to be flowing out of the letters. We are doing a rezoning from an A40 to an R10. So with the R10 zoning, we are only allowing one additional home site on the parcel. We are not doing a smaller zoning, so it will be 10 acres with a single home site on it. So just for clarity on it.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason, for that clarification.
And Mr. Chair, and then the remaining 15 acres, that's too small to be divided again. Is that not correct from staff?
Yep, that is correct.
Thank you.
And so point being that both of you are making, and I think it's good that you're commenting on it, because it seems like a lot of the concerns from the letters is I think there's a fear that this would be, like a lot of half-acre or 1-acre lots, bringing a lot of different houses into the area. And really this would kind of assure there'd be one additional home for all those remaining acres in the future. So good clarifications. Any other discussion? All right, with that, we will move on to the findings of fact. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, I believe it is. It isn't A40 at the moment, but this is targeted as a rural residential area. We are going through an R10, but that still will keep the rural nature of the property being with the 10-acre requirement for non-development outside of the single home site.
Very good. Thank you, Jason. Number two, does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? I'll list the applicable sections.
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn here. The proposal is in formation with the comprehensive plan, especially when we look at just living goals. Number two, to manage the impacts of growth and development in the rural character and natural resources.
All right, thank you, Sean. Is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not? I believe it is in this case. I know there's a lot of concerns about a lot of homes coming in, but if you look at this area in general, there are a lot of large acreage properties with residences on them, and there's a lot of demand for that. And I think to Jason's point earlier, this proposal would still keep the rural character, where you're not plopping in a high density housing development. This is one house on 10 acres, which definitely fits the rural character. So I believe it is kind of compatible with what we currently have in that area. Does anyone see it differently?
I would have to agree with you, Jason. This is Rich. If I remember correctly from the response that we got from the township commissioners, this is the direction that they wanted that rural residential area to develop in their township and try to preserve the agricultural more to the north and west of the township.
Yeah. Thank you, Rich.
Yes, Mr. Chair, I'll add to that, and Rich is correct. And we looked at this, and we've kind of come to the conclusion that this is what we'll call the transitional area anyway. So, yeah, I think it fits just fine on a number of different notes.
Yeah. Thank you, gentlemen, for your comments. Number four, how has the applicant demonstrated the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? I believe there's a variety of setback rules, and this will end up going through the platting process to address additional concerns in the ordinance. But really, there's outside of those setback issues, if done properly and platted properly, this parcel really meets everything that it needs to be rezoned into an R10. So I believe it does fit. Does anyone feel differently? All right, hearing none, we'll go on to number 5, other issues pertinent to the matter. One thing, I do believe it's pertinent that there's township approval on this one. That's one thing we've asked out of that township, and it's nice to get their feedback on it. Any other issues?
Mr. Chair, there's been a lot of talk about the transportation on Highway 4 and the impact to transportation. We are going to see an additional home site on this, should it go through the process and drive to conclusion. That could also include an additional school bus. So we might see some increase in traffic, but only what you'd expect from a single additional home site.
Yeah. Thank you, Jason. Good point there. Anything else? All right, if there are no other comments, a motion would be in order.
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here. I move that we forward this recommendation for rezoning with the recommendation for approval to the next County Commissioner Board meeting.
All right, thank you, Jason. Motion made. Do we have a second?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, I'll second that motion.
Right. Motion made by Jason, second by Sean. We'll do roll call on the rest. Ken, are you in favor?
Yes.
Or
yes.
Thank you, Ken. Mike?
Yes.
Thank you. Rich?
Yes.
And I am also a yes. So the motion passes unanimously, and we'll move on to the county commissioners at their next meeting. All right, thank you to the applicant for your time. With that, we'll move on to our agenda item number 5, and that's to consider another rezoning request submitted by Dwayne Ebensteiner from Albany, according to Section 4.1 of Stearns County Land Use and Zoning Ordinance number 439, to rezone approximately 5.18 acres from the Ag 40 zoning district to the residential R5 zoning district. The property is part of the northwest corridor lying at the east end of Pioneer View Road in Section 14, Albany Township. The property address is 21190 Pioneer View Road in Albany. With that, staff, can you go on to your report?
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. So this property is 40 acres in total, and they are requesting that 5 acres of it be rezoned to R5. The 5 acres being requested is on the eastern side of the property, and so the 40 acres already has a home and accessory structures, and then if the rezoning is approved, the 5 acres would be platted off for a new home site to be built. The property has access from Pioneer View Road, which is a township road. The 5 acres requested to rezone doesn't actually abut the township road, but they plan on providing an easement to the 5 acres. The property is a mixture of tillable land, woods, wetland, and it does slope down quite a bit from the north end to the south end. There's a feedlot to the east. It is more than 350 feet away, so we don't have an impact with the R5 zoning like we talked about on the previous one. And that feedlot is over 100 animal units, so it's a 700-foot setback, and there is plenty of room to build and meet that 700-foot setback from that feedlot to the east. Okay, so looking at the area, there's about approximately 28 homes, 1 registered feedlot with less than 10 animal units, and 3 feedlots with more than 10 animal units within a half mile of the property. The area is, again, a mixture of rural residential and ag land. The zoning, the 5 acres itself is completely surrounded by A40 zoning. When you look at the zoning map, there is R10 zoning to the south and to the west. There's a residential plat directly north of this property, which is zoned A40, as you see on the zoning map. That was platted in 1996, and when the zoning map was adopted in the year 2000, it became zoned agricultural, but there is an existing plat there. in that ag zone. The property is not within shoreline or any other areas of concern. If the 5 acres is rezoned to R5, then it would be allowed just the one new building site. As far as the county comprehensive plan goes, the future land use map shows this as an agricultural or rural area on the future land use map. The LISA score for this 5 acre site is 72.65, which is above our LISA, our non-ag conversion threshold of 65. Albany Township did recommend approval of the rezoning, and their recommendation is included in your packet. That's all I have for the staff report, and I have a couple letters when we get to the public hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry. Thank you, Deb, for unmuting me. I didn't realize I was still on that. All right. So we'll move on to members that have visited the site. Jason.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. Sean.
Yes.
All right. Ken. Sorry, Ken, you may have been on mute. I didn't hear you.
Oh, yes.
Thank you, sir. Mike.
Yes.
All right. And Rich.
Yes.
Thanks, Rich. And I also visited the site. So with that, are the applicants with us?
90. I did.
Oh, yeah, we have you now. If you don't mind stating your name and address for the record. Or we did have you. You might be on mute again.
All right. Elaine Ebensteiner, 21190 Pioneer View Road, Albany, Minnesota, 56307.
All right. Thank you, Elaine. And Dwayne is with you as well?
I'm here, yes. Dwayne Ebensteiner, 21190 Pioneer View Road, Albany, Minnesota.
All right. Thank you. Is there anything you would like to add to the staff report?
Not really. I think we went through so many things over and over, we don't know what to add.
All right. The plan is to build one home on the parcel?
Yep.
Yes. Our daughter is the one who wants to build the home on the 5 acres. And then eventually she would like to buy the rest of the land.
Okay. All right. Very good. Any questions from members for the applicants?
No.
Mr. Chair, yes, Jason, you're a couple. So it shows this is farmland. There's a field on the east side of the parcel. When people farm this property, do they farm it in its entirety, or does that east parcel go rented to the? Who farms the east parcel?
I farmed it.
Okay. And then another question. So, you're looking at an easement. Maybe if staff could help draw where that access easement to the parcel might be, if you have any idea.
Yes, Mr. Chair, if we can flip to the map the applicant submitted with the application. There we go. So the yellow is the area they want to rezone, and then you can see the easement lines coming out, going straight west and then north up to Pioneer View Road. Do you see that?
Yeah, thank you.
All right. Did you have another question yet, Jason?
No, that'll be enough for now. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Any other questions for the applicant?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Looking forward to the future. So keep this, what we're looking at with that access, they reference that the daughter wants to buy the rest of the property in the future. There'll be 2 parcels, correct? And so the daughter would be buying basically the house with the other remaining property. Is that correct? I guess I'm asking the applicants.
But they're going to build their own house. She doesn't want to.
Our house would be split off of that.
Yes, I understand that. My question, you say that she wants to buy the rest of the property. And so if she buys the rest of the property, she'll then own two houses because there's a house on the other property.
I think we would be splitting off what is our house to whatever we need to do.
Mr. Chair,
then it would have to be, so then it will be replatted once again.
Yes.
Okay. Because I'm just wondering, are we looking at, with that driveway, are we looking at having a common driveway and then splitting it off into 3 parcels?
Well, Joe, it's a good question, but that's potentially down the road a ways, and it really wouldn't be I guess it's somewhat applicable to this, but it's getting out there a ways.
Mr. Chair, I just want to add that I believe the daughter, Leah, is on the line as well if we had any questions for her or if she wanted to introduce herself.
Leah said that they're trying to unmute her, but it's not working that she can get, so she can talk.
Okay. Well, if Leah's able to get her audio going, Leah, just jump in anytime you're able to get your audio. And we'll just kind of keep going. Was there any other questions? And Joe, I sure didn't mean to cut you off if you have other questions on that one.
No, my point is that, part of our diligence is to avoid future conflict. And so if her intentions are actually to acquire the other property, if they were to cut the house and the existing property into a parcel and then include her property into the piece she wants to buy in the future, it would all be in one plat at one time. But that's just what I'm thinking.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, Leah, we have you now.
Okay, sorry, I was double muted. My name is Leah Redding. My address is 33379 Sand Hill Circle, Albany, Minnesota. So just to try to answer some of those questions, we are looking at buying the 5 acres now, and then eventually as mom and dad, when they decide to move, we would purchase the remaining 35 acres, and we would end up likely replotting the house with a few acres that aligns with the housing developments that are already out there, and selling off the house, but we would keep the remaining larger portion of the acreage along with ours because it would have that easement for our driveway on it as well. Does that clarify? I know we're not doing it all at one time. That was kind of the intention, but at this point we were kind of taking a small chunk off a little bit, trying to do a little bit right now and then move that other piece down the road and worry about it when the time comes a little bit more.
Thank you, Leah. Joe, does that address your question?
Yeah, that's fine. I'm just looking down the road.
Yeah. No, it's a good question. Thank you. Are there any other questions by members for the applicants? All right. With that, we'll roll into the public hearing, and Jennifer mentioned that there was a letter, or there's someone online?
Yep, I have 2 letters to read.
Okay, thanks. Go ahead.
Yep, to Stearns County Planning. First of all, I would question why Dwayne Ebensteiner is even asking for a variance. He said he would never build another house on that property. I wonder what is the future of our farming practice. Will we or other persons on this property be able to expand our feedlot? This property used to be the 160-acre dairy farm. There are that many wells and septic systems on that farm already that one is going to flush the toilet and the next one will drink it. Signed, Richard Klug, 20789. County Road 154, Albany. And the second letter to the Stearns County Planning Commission, when the land was sold, we were under the understanding that 40 acres was to have one house on it. I think this should be honored, one house per 40 acres. What was the good of making the laws if nobody's going to follow it? Signed, Lois Klug, 20789, County Road 154.
Thank you, Jennifer. Applicants, any responses to the letters?
No.
Okay. All right. Any other questions by members or comments? Otherwise, a motion would be in order to close the public hearing.
Mr. Chair, one question on the preliminary plat sheet that has the easement for the driveway. It looks like there's a house and a shed. Is that the proposed location of the house and the shed?
Yes, that's correct.
So that would lie outside of the cropped areas, correct? Generally?
Commissioner Wienerman, I think, and maybe Leah could weigh in, I think the home would be outside the cropped area, but possibly the shed within the cropped area. It's hard to say for sure.
Leah, do you know the answer to that? Could you respond at all?
Okay, can you hear me? I was
Yep.
muted. Yeah, we haven't. I think part of the shed potentially would be a little bit on the acreage or the farmland, but I think we've kind of decided we're going to shift the shed up a little bit. I don't know my directions. North of the house? Yeah, sorry, not good at north and south. So it won't, if anything, it wouldn't be very much on that farmland in the back, that 3 acres back there. But if you don't want it there, we can move it forward too. So we're not really dead set on exactly where it has to be at this point. We're kind of waiting to get feedback from everybody too to see where it needs to be.
And then, so as the new owner, potential new owner of 5 beautiful acres of Stearns County property, you're going to have about 3 acres of farmland.
Yep.
Do you have any thoughts on what you're going to do with the farmland, or have you not gotten that far yet?
We have not gotten that far yet. So, do you have any suggestions? I mean, is there anything we should be looking towards?
You know, evident the land suitability score shows it's pretty good farmland. So if you'd be interested in keeping that in production, that would be something I'm sure our planning commission members would support. But it would be your decision if we go with this. Thank you.
All right.
I think that's something we'll consider as we move forward. Sorry.
Oh, no, you're fine, Leah. Sorry. Is there any other comments? We got that part that you would consider. Anything else you wanted to mention?
The only other thing is, and I don't know if it was brought forward, we did have the county come out and look at the wetlands just to make sure we wouldn't be impacting any wetlands negatively, and that where we proposed the driveway and everything, the county, I forget his name off the top of my head, he did write us a letter and support that from his preliminary evaluation. It wouldn't impact any of our wetlands out there, so we would be okay that way.
Okay, thank you for that comment.
I think that would be it.
All right, thank you, Leah. One additional question for staff. Jennifer, the Klugs, I know they have a feedlot to the south. How far, what is that distance again? You stated it earlier.
Yes, Mr. Chair, the required feedlot setback is 700 feet. And we have a map Angie will pull up here showing where that comes. So the 700 feet just nicks the western edge of the Eben, or the eastern edge of the Ebensteiner property.
Okay. And if my understanding of feedlots and the setbacks and everything, that allows that the chances, the likelihood of that impacting their ability to add on to their feedlot is relatively minimal, right? There'd be quite a few options if they were to expand it in the future.
Certainly, yeah, they would have options, with the proposed home location for the Reddings. That would provide, there is some space, the feedlot could expand to the west somewhat before they would bump up against 700 feet from the Redding new home. And they own, Kluges own the land north and south, so they have some expansion opportunity that way as well.
Okay, thank you. That's kind of what I saw too. I just wanted to double check that based on their concerns. So, very good. Any other comments by members or questions? If not, a motion to close the public hearing would be in order.
Jason Wienerman, so moved.
Thank you, Jason. Do I have a second?
This is Sean. I'll second.
Second from anyone? We got you, Sean. Thank you. Running through this, Ken.
Yes. Aye.
Thank you, Ken. Thank you, Ken. Mike.
Aye.
Rich.
Aye.
Thank you, Rich, and I'm also an aye. So public hearing is closed. Any other discussion by members before we move on to findings of fact? All right, hearing none, we'll roll into the findings. Number one, is the proposal consistent with the zoning ordinance? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, Sean Blackburn, it is consistent, but once again, I don't have the actual specific information right here to cite right now.
All right.
And maybe we need to do that after the fact.
Yeah, we will do that, Sean. That is fine. So, thank you. We'll move on to number two. Does the proposal conform to the comprehensive plan of the county? What's the applicable sections?
Mr. Chair.
No, I'm compatible. Sorry.
Go ahead, Jason.
So I don't have the number here, but it's the one that talks about diverse housing styles for different homeowner occupancies.
Yeah.
I hope staff can help me dig that one out.
I know which one you're referring to, Jason. It's providing housing options for people at different areas. Is that the one you're referring to?
That's the one I'm talking about.
And at different stages of life.
Exactly.
I can try to find that one real quick. There's some agriculture ones as well. I'm going to go with living goals. Number 3, support housing options that give people in all life stages and all economic means viable choices for safe, stable, and affordable homes. And I'm going to also say living goal number 2, manage the impacts of growth and development on the county's rural character and natural resources. I think where this property is located also makes a difference. There's township approval, and I think a lot of that is because it's in that transitional area. It's just outside the city of Albany, and I think we're going to see more of this. It is really good farmland, but some of the growth of the city is going to be one of those things that's just going to make it a challenge to have some of those large sections near town in the future. So there we go. Any other comments there? We'll move on to number 3. Is the proposal compatible with the existing neighborhood? Why or why not?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wienerman here again. I believe it is because of the plat just north of here that has multiple smaller home sites developed. So this would just be a smaller finger that appears to be coming off that plat. So I think it's perfectly compatible with the adjacent buildings, sites.
Thank you. Jason, to add to that, I think it's one of those things with development around cities as well, is that with the plans, this is an R5. The intent long term by the owners is to keep this a large parcel. It's not something where their intention is to at this time to break this up into subdivisions, which I think is pertinent to fitting with the existing neighborhood as well. Has the applicant, or how has the applicant demonstrated the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied?
Mr. Chair, Jason Wiederman, I believe the standards, by moving this from an A40 to an R5, we will continue keeping fairly low residential density here. And the landowner has expressed interest in keeping the remaining part of the site outside of the parent's home contiguous and in similar kind of using, so we are still maintaining the overall ag condition of the site.
Yeah, I agree. Thank you, Jason. And then other issues pertinent to the matter. Again, we did receive township approval, which is always a good thing. It's nice to work these things out at the township before it gets to the county, so that's appreciated. Any other comments?
I guess the applicant contacted the county in regards to delineating wetland area and planning this out also as a pertinent issue.
Yeah. Yep, that was good. Thank you, Rich. And I think where it's located, minimal, traffic impacts or anything like that you deal in some other rezonings as well. All right, with that, if there's anything else, we can add it to things that are pertinent. Otherwise, a motion would be in order.
I'll make the motion that this rezoning is forwarded to the county commissioners.
All right, thank you, Rich. Do we have a second?
This is Sean. I'll second that motion.
Thank you, Sean. All right, quick roll call by members on that. Those in favor, Jason?
Aye.
All right, Sean had seconded. Ken?
Aye.
Mike?
Aye.
And Rich made the motion. I am also an aye. So the motion is moved, and we'll move on to the county commissioners. So thank you to the applicants for joining us this evening. With that, I think our next agenda item is going to take us to the review of the shoreline standard. So with that, I don't know, Angie, Jennifer, any comments that you want to make on the review? Or how should we have this discussion?
Mr. Chair, I am still present here, so.
Oh, you are, Nick. Oh, fire away.
I've been reviewing permits and completing other site visit work from today, so.
I like that productivity. Thank you.
Absolutely. So, so I just wanted to bring this up. A lot of times property owners will inquire about different kinds of erosion control standards that we have. And then it does come up, from time to time too on permits, especially where they maybe haven't been followed or on after the fact requests and things like that. So this is more as kind of an informational deal here where I just kind of wanted to put this out here to show what we have for standard conditions on all of our permits. So Angie, if you want to go to the next slide there, these are the standard conditions that are on all of the permits that we issue. So these are on there for the contractors to see, or whoever's doing the work to see on the permit, is that there are additional standards that, even though we don't maybe propose them as special conditions, on a specific permit, these are always at play. So this is something that we go over at the Shoreland workshop every year. We didn't have it last year, but this is something we try to touch on there as well. And it is on every permit. And these are sometimes we discuss these in more detail during site visits with contractors and property owners. And then on the next page of the packet here, this section of the ordinance, that 10.2.14F, this kind of outlines, again, things that are kind of always at play on shoreland alteration projects. A lot of times Greg Berg will reference from this section on his comments. You'll see that pretty often he'll reference from this section. But this just kind of outlines, too, what's expected of whoever's doing the work in terms of erosion control, sediment control, stabilizing the site before, during, and after. And then if there are specific needs for each site, we will specify those additionally with additional conditions. So this is, so I just wanted to make sure that this was out there, and we kind of went over it, and everybody kind of had the chance to see that these are always at play, regardless of the conditions that we might attach to permits, both as a major permit, but as well as the minor permits that do get issued every week. So.
Thanks, Nick. I looked at this earlier, and it's a lot of the stuff that we had talked about as we were reviewing the ordinance. So it was good to see. Now, just real quick, and you don't have to go real in depth, but basically the process. If I'm a lakeshore owner and I want to do something that's going to require a permit, minor or major, I reach out, contact environmental services. Typically, they're then directed to you to initiate the conversation. What does a typical process or steps look like? Does it start with a site visit, or is it kind of a phone consultation to start? Just take me through the typical process.
Yeah, so we'll get an inquiry from a property owner or a contractor. They'll often say, cite what their issue is or what they're thinking about for their property, and then we will walk through some of the basic elements as it relates to the ordinance a lot of times on the phone, or if they stop in the office. We haven't had a lot of that lately, but that is the other option. So yeah, we'll kind of do a higher level overview. We'll look at the aerial imagery to see if there's floodplain or wetland or bluff or things like that are present that we can do from the office. And then depending on if it's still something they kind of want to go with, given potential site constraints that are there, we'll set up a site visit to kind of explore further. And then that site visit is done preferably with the property owner there, but that doesn't always happen. There's different levels of kind of involvement for the property owners. And then that's where we review the site conditions, so that site assessment for the vegetation, and the slope and the wetlands and things like floodplain and things like that. And then we go over all the requirements. We'll put together a checklist for whoever's going to be putting together the application, and then that gets given to them that day or emailed to them after we go back to the office, and then they have that application to submit to us for review.
Okay, awesome. Thanks. And basically all of these items are basically discussed as you're having that entire process. So, I mean, by the time something, let's say it's a major shoreland alteration, it would get to us. A lot of these things have been discussed multiple times.
Yep, and then there again too, if there are special conditions that would be needed, like for example, the request earlier today, additional silt fence was proposed. We had talked a little bit about that on site when we had met, that this is going to be steep here. There's going to be some material involved. Yeah. We want to make sure that we have additional sediment control, and then they also had proposed a work-in sections. That's not something that's explicitly required here, but it's something that was proposed because it was something that we kind of addressed either directly or indirectly at the site visit.
Awesome. Cool. Thanks, Nick. Anything else anyone else has?
Nick, a question on number 5 on the item listed here. It says mulches can be used. Do we have any requirement that the mulch be weed free? I know that in some of the ag lands, moving mulches from one area to another has caused very concerning weed problems. So do we require our mulches to be weed free?
Yeah, Mr. Chair, Member Wienerman, we don't have any specific requirements for that. Some of the suppliers will kind of, they will insure or maybe market it that way if it is weed free, but we don't have any specific requirement in terms of the type of mulch, if it's weed free mulch, things like that. Another kind of similar kind of aspect to this would be the type of erosion control blanket. So Minnesota Department of Transportation has spec'd out all kinds of different erosion control blanket standards for varying levels of blankets. A lot of the cheaper grade materials that you often see include the plastic netting straw blanket is probably the most common erosion control blanket. And one thing that I often talk to contractors and property owners about is saying, hey, you're going to often see plastic netted blanket. It's probably going to be the cheapest option, but we try to encourage them to not to use that product because animals get tangled in it and it doesn't always photo degrade like it's supposed to if it's shaded and things like that. So we don't specify those things in the ordinance necessarily, but those are things that do come up from time to time when we talk about it. So things like the specific types of mulches, even things like specific types of rock and things like that. For fill, like if they're adding black dirt, for example, they need to be screened. Or for the sand, it needs to be clean washed sand. It can't be have other organics and things in it for the sand. So some of those things are specified, but not in a lot of detail.
Yeah, there's a slippery slope there. The more you specify into that, it's just layers of additional things that have to be monitored and checked and challenges for people trying to do it. But it's good the discussions are taking place. I like it. Anything else anyone has?
Mr. Chair?
Yeah, Joe?
Nick, as I look at the issue on rip wrap, under a minor, you can have rip wrap up to 3 feet high from the shoreline. It says with approval from the department or the DNR. Does that mean that before that, even minor shoreline is approved for riprap, that you do make that visit at least to go take a look and see what it is? My opinion that we've got more riprap probably than we need already in the county, and it has a very negative impact, I believe, on the ecosystem whenever you put riprap in on a lakeshore. And so with that minor, basically they would be able to go end to end on their property line with riprap. Is that correct?
So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, so that is that section. We did modify that in this last go-around, where now it's required that if there's no erosion there, that the riprap isn't just an automatic thing. They can't just go end to end on their property, 3 feet high, 3 to 1 slope. They meet their other dimension. That's not allowed unless we are there. We see that there's erosion and it can't be mitigated by other means feasibly. So there are sites that we go to frequently. We've made plenty of site visits on sites that the property owner or the contractor are requesting riprap on the whole property. But we're not allowing that because there needs to be erosion, number one, and number two, it needs to be addressed in some other way where possible, using a core log with vegetation and other things like that.
Yeah, and that's good because, especially if there's vegetation there holding that bank in place and they just want to put the riprap in there because it looks nice and they don't have to mow, okay, to me, again, you're destroying the ecosystem, and in time, over time, there's no lakeshore left, for the critters.
Yeah, absolutely.
And
The other aspect to this too is sometimes we may specify less than 3 feet. So if there's not an erosion issue or erosion potential higher than 1 or 2 feet above the ordinary high water level, we will put that as a special condition that it cannot exceed 1 foot or 2 foot above the ordinary high water level. So it's not being stacked up the bank where you see that excessive rock where it's not needed.
Nick and I appreciate that, and also the, the need for the entire shoreline. Yeah, maybe one portion could use it, but from property line to property line, is not necessary there. And then also the sand blanket. Did we go to 25 feet on the sand blanket?
That is correct. Yep. So we 10 feet by 25 feet is the maximum size on the sand blanket.
Okay.
The only way it would be allowed larger than that is if it was previously permitted as a larger sand blanket. That could be continued as it was permitted previously.
Okay. Thanks, Nick.
Awesome. Anything else for Nick? One last question for you, Nick, and I know it's getting late, and then we'll go. With the change in the Lakeshore scoring and the assessment, I know we've seen that in a couple of them now. I've liked it so far, but how's it gone having that discussion with applicants?
For the most part, most of the sites have met the minimum requirements, and there have been a few sites that have not. It's because it's a requirement that is kind of understood from the outset. And I mean, there's a basic understanding from property owners that, hey, the vegetation cover does make a difference here. There's a general understanding that it's reasonable to require some level of vegetation. So by and large, that hasn't been really an issue from property owners or contractors in that regard. And there again, the majority of the properties that we've seen so far have met the requirements. So it hasn't come up that much, but there have been a few cases, and it really hasn't been an issue for them to implement the additional trees or other plantings.
Have you had any feedback yet where someone has after having that discussion wanted to try to improve their score, knowing that, or any comments regarding that yet?
Not really. Not that I've seen. I do think there is that potential where when they see the score, they're like, we're a little low here. How can we improve? I have handed out more native plant lists than I had in the past. So that has come up more. So there's probably a little bit of an educational aspect there that has been improved from this, which is one of our goals, which is what we wanted as part of it. So I think that's definitely, there's been an uptick in that. So that's a positive. I think it's a little early to see it, though, in terms of to the extent how many people would really want to do more based on what they see as their score.
Oh, right on. Good. Thanks, man. Anything else?
Nick, while you're here, Commissioner Blankish and I had seen some shoreline cutting on Big Watab, I believe. Has there been something that has become of that? Do you know?
Yep, I've been out to that site on 2 occasions now, and I did meet with the property owner on that one. There were a few trees, larger trees that had been cut that will need to be replanted, and then there were a number of red osier dogwood and a few others as well that were cut. A lot of that will grow back, and part of the correspondence with the property owner there was the understanding that cannot be cut out again. A lot of that will grow back, but the larger trees will need to be replaced. There has not been a final planting plan or anything submitted yet for that. That is still in process, but that one is on our radar, and we're working on getting that addressed with the property owner.
Okay, and so basically, will that shoreline then stay as is? I mean, because those stumps are holding that shoreline together, will those stumps remain there as the new plantings come in?
Yes, so that cannot be excavated out of there because, like you did say, that does hold all of that in place, especially given its location on the lake. So that will all need to remain before, during, and after the new things are planted.
Okay, I appreciate your due diligence on that. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Anything else for Nick? Awesome. Thanks, Nick, for staying late.
Thank you.
Last thing that I did miss, I missed number 6, which is review and approval of the meeting minutes from May.
Mr. Chair?
Yeah.
Angie Berg, my understanding is that those did not make it in the packet,
Okay.
so we'll put those on for the July meeting.
Sounds like a great plan to me.
And I
That'll
do
work.
have another discussion item when it's time.
I'd say we can move to that now, Angie.
Okay, just to let the Planning Commission know, starting in July, we will be in person. And so it is expected that the board or the Planning Commission members be in person because the emergency order expires on June 1st. Therefore, in order to comply with the open meeting law, we need to be in person together. Shelley Benson, the director, will be sending you an email along to our Board of Adjustment as well, explaining that applicants and the public will still be allowed to attend virtually. That's part of, not related to the pandemic, but part of an overall goal that the county board is trying to reach in order to get out, allow more people to be involved in the government. So just be aware that we will be in a hybrid scenario in some situations. So we're working on what that will look like.
Hey, just a comment, Angie, to keep in mind, and this is from someone who spends a lot of time in virtual meetings and face-to-face meetings. It sometimes can be an additional challenge when you have a large group that's face-to-face, and then you have a few members that are trying to come in virtually. It's very doable, but just experience has taught it can be a little bit tougher for the people that are remote. So anything we can do from a video perspective so that they can try to see most of the members or be able to follow that conversation, whether that's us maybe having computers in front of us or something, I don't know. That's an extreme too, but that will all make it helpful. So for what that's worth.
Yeah, good feedback. Thank you. And the commissioners are going to also be moving into that format. So we're going to be gaining a lot of experience in the next month on what works and what doesn't. And applicants and the public will have the choice to come in. But I hear you, and we'll definitely take feedback throughout our process.
All good. Awesome.
Mr. Chair and Angie. Angie, do you know, what about commissioner members? Can they attend virtually and still have voting power? Have we resolved that, or have we discussed that, or do you know what the statute might be on that?
Right. So, Mr. Chair, Commissioner Persky, in order to comply with the open meeting law, the members are required to attend in person. The only reason that we were allowed to operate the way we were is because we were under an emergency order granted by the governor. So that would not be an option in the future.
But let me just say, they would not be voting members, correct? They could attend, could they not?
Tell me more.
Okay, so I'm in DC doing some business with the county, and you're meeting here Thursday night, and so I attend virtually if I'm a planning commission member. I could attend, but I couldn't vote. Can I participate?
In the discussion, you're saying, Joe?
Yes.
Mr.
I mean, and I'm throwing that out to the group. If you want, if we have any power in which to facilitate that, is that something we want to do?
It's a good question.
Mr. Chair, we'll throw that up to the attorney. I'm not going to even, this is all going to be new territory for counties and cities statewide. I heard your question. I will throw it up to the county attorney's office and they can opine on that question.
Yeah, sounds good, Angie.
Awesome. Is there anything else anyone has?
Yes, as long as we're getting after county issues, on the staff analysis, and I'm a spelling freak, so I've noticed this for several months. Number 3, it goes, is the proposal compatible? And they use exciting neighborhood instead of it's supposed to be existing neighborhood. And they've misspelled existing every month. And I thought, somebody should change it. But
well,
tonight I was just sitting here and I had it twice and it just bothers me.
That's a good observation, Ken. Exciting is actually spelled right. It's just using the wrong context. So
but it's exciting. It's kind of exiting neighborhood.
Exiting.
It's
okay.
exiting.
I'd like to.
And I just thought,
when we're looking at the staff analysis on that, the one phrase, how has the applicant demonstrated the standards and criteria stated in the ordinance will be satisfied? That one's very difficult. And I think maybe we need to relook at that wording on that one. I don't know. It's kind of odd what it's asking for and how it's asking for us to answer for them and make it's almost like asking for promises that haven't been and I don't know. The wording is just kind of odd on that. Am I wrong?
Mr. Chair, I'll weigh in on that, Sean. So that's actually comes from statute. If you remember when we did a presentation, I don't know what ordinance review meeting it was, but it's when we talked about reducing the findings of fact down. And so I revisited statute, and that's the wording of the statute. If there's a way in common language, we can try to put something in parentheses for you. Certainly open to that. I know the Board of Adjustment has a very challenging finding that they have to make in the affirmative, but it's asked in the negative. That one trips them up every time too. So let's give it a few months and see if you can get used to it. If not, we can try to adjust.
I agree with Sean. This is a very hard question.
Awesome. Cool. Anything else?
Shut her down.
Then I got this deal. We're going to adjourn here, okay? So.
Nice job, Jason.
Oh, thanks for the help. I got off to a rocky start. That was for sure. I appreciated all the guidance getting me pushed back on course. So thank you all.
Thank you. No, you did a great job.
All right. Thanks, everyone. Hey, have a great weekend.